Okay, this video webinar is designed to actually show you how to create date-driven workflows within CRM. So if you've watched the basic workflow video, you realize our data is synchronized with Darwinet and Darwin, and a common workflow request is to have workflows kick off based upon dates. For example, when something is becoming due, sending something out 30 days out, 15 days out, before or after something's expired, the payroll's late or something along those lines. So in this case, we'll focus more kind of on the HR side and say, if we need something like a license or a certification, we need a 30-day reminder before this expires. So it kind of expands upon the kind of out-of-the-box notifications we give on DNet. You can do custom ones that can be specific to specific clients if you need to, or just generally as an across-the-board rule for your company. So we'll keep this one pretty simple, but I want to get you the idea of how to do the date-driven workflows. So once again, I'll start by using my handy icon here and opening up CRM. I've already signed in today, so it remembers my user credentials. Takes me to my home page. And if you watched the other workflow video, you realize how to get to the workflow area. But just to remind you, you kind of, for navigating, you start with the big tri-bar or the big hamburger here, move over to settings, and then click on processes in the process center. You'll be displayed a list of the workflows that you currently are in charge of, and you click the new button to create a brand new workflow. So we're ready to start our workflow now that we're here. So this is really just going to be 30-day alert for licenses, name it whatever you want. And then we're going to create a workflow that actually sends out an alert to the employee and to the client when it's 30 days before the expiration of a license. So the category is always going to be workflow. Pretty much for all the examples, it's always going to be workflow there. Then remember, when you choose the entity, just think about what you're working with. I'm working with licenses and certifications. So I just want to scroll down and find that entity. And almost all the entities related to the employees will be called EE. If it's not there, they might be called employee. There's a couple called employee. But generally, if you look for the EE, you can find licenses and certifications. They really just match the stuff that's in Darwin and Darwinet. So here's employee licenses and certifications. Once I click that, we'll get our worksheet of the top part is when this workflow is going to run. The bottom part is what it's going to do. So the top part I explained pretty well, and I think in the last workflow video. So, but quickly to go through the kind of the standards. Run this workflow in the background is what we will always want. As an on-demand process, it's a good practice when you're first creating workflows to check this off. It makes it easier to test, but it's not necessary. Automatically delete the completed workflow. I usually uncheck that, so initially I can watch the workflow run when I'm first testing it, so I can see exactly what happens in case there's any issues. Then moving here to the right, there's a scope. Always change this to organization. And then decide when the workflow starts. So in this case, we're telling the system, whenever there's a new license and certification, just check it, and when it's less than 30 days out, go ahead and send an email alert that this is about to expire. So it doesn't matter if the license and certification expires in 4 years or next year, just go ahead and leave it as start record is created. So whenever there's a new one of these, the system will know, okay, when it's 30 days out, go ahead and send that email. So whenever there's a new license certification, we want this next part to kick off. And so what this next part is, it's going to check a date for us. So this is kind of the gold standard for how to do date-driven workflows. So if I click this Add Step button, I get choices here. So we actually want the system to wait. So it's just going to basically pause the workflow, put it in the background until this expiration date hits. So I go ahead and click on Wait condition right there. And so I'm going to say, wait until 30 days before expiration, just describing the step. And it says, wait until condition click to configure. So by simply clicking on that, I'm going to get another screen where I can tell the system how to wait, when to wait for. So kind of work left to right here. So this first box is just saying, okay, what am I working with? Well, this is going to be new. But basically, if we're doing a wait condition, always choose process. So basically, that's the local value. That's saying that's the workflow itself. because I'm going to tell the workflow or process, remember always work left to right, I'm going to tell it to timeout. Basically just sit in the background until, now right here people tend to click on this and it's a calendar. Well, that's choosing a physical date. Well, that physical date happens once, so it really has very little value in workflows except in very rare exceptions. We want a dynamic date, and that's what this form assistant does over here. Basically what we want it to do is we want it to wait till 30 days before this date, which is pretty easy to do. So if you look at this, you just say, okay, I want 30 days. The default is before, but I could do after. Duration means just pause for 30 days, but we want before because we want 30 days before expiration date. You notice it says it right there. So that's it. So this is kind of what you need to remember or write down. Just always choose process from this list, timeout equals, and then just create your date over here. In this case, which is the most common one, is how many days or months before an expiration date. So once I've gotten that done, 30 days before the expiration date, I save and close. Now the system's ready for me to tell it what to do once that date hits. So I time out until 30 days before the license expires, and then I say, well, what do I want it to do? So I can come in and say, let's go ahead and just do like we did last time. Let's send an email. So now I'm going to send an email out. So, I'm going to alert employee and client about the expiration. So I'm going to send the email out. I click Set Properties, and here's kind of our email worksheet here. So we set it up once for all the emails, basically the email template. So I'll have the from, once again, just like we did last time, I'll have it be the user, and I'll just use my kind of sample user here. So I just look up the user that I'm going to use in this case. This is who it's going to be from. It's going to be from this CRM Tom kind of fake user. And then I'm going to send it to, in this case, I want to send it to the employee and the client. So that's where this dynamic assistant comes into play again. So who am I sending this to? So I want to send it to the employee. So if I click this first drop-down list, right now it's showing me license and certifications. Well, I want to get to the employee. So if I look at the things that are related to this, there's something called the employee right here. So if I say, okay, let's take a look at the employee and send it to the actual employee. So it says, okay, whatever employee is related to this record, we're going to go ahead and click add, and now it's going to send that email to that employee. Because the license is related to an employee, so I can go ahead and grab that email from the employee record. Now I can copy. Also, I want to send that to the client. Well, you'll notice the employee, when I've chosen the employee record, one of the other choices here was account. An account is synonymous with client, so it's the same thing. Account and client are the same thing in CRM. So if I click on client, like the first time I clicked on employee, this time I'm clicking on account or client. So I can now say, okay, let's copy the client. So whatever the main email address of the client will be there. I could also choose contacts. I can create contacts, etc. So I can do a lot of different things with these things. I can send it to internal people. In this case, I'm sending it from me to the employee and the client, and I can copy myself if I wanted to. Then the subject, and this is once again just building the email, license expiration alert. And then let's just go ahead and grab something we can put in the subject. Let's grab the employee license certification ID, or right there. There's the ID. So we'll put the ID right there, and then we'll put in the employee name. And so I can come in here and grab employee right there, and then just click add, and then you bring it in there. So just like we did with the email in the other video, we just bring in whatever data we want. So we can come and say, this notification is an alert for an expiring license. Let me say employee. Let's go ahead and bring in the employee name, we go. And then, if you remember from last time, if we just want to grab, as opposed to grabbing first name and last name, whenever you see employee, I can actually just use that for the entire employee name. Then we can say license ID. Remember, you always clear out the last field before you bring in the next field. So the license ID you'll put right there. Make sure you put it in the right spot. Click Add and OK. And let's just grab expiration date. Once again, you can put any fields you want in this actual email. In this case, we'll just keep it simple because that's not the point of this demo, is putting a ton of fields in here. So and then we'll come in and grab expiration date. Click Add wherever you want it and click OK. So build your email however you want. Any of the data fields you can put into the system. So once I save and close this, then I simply activate this workflow. So the workflow's on. If you saw the last one, I went to an existing record and tested on an existing record. What I'll do this time is I'll actually do it kind of live, because I have a sample database here, so I can kind of show you how it works. So I'm going to actually now flip away from CRM and jump into Darwinet. So I'm going to log in as kind of my fake client here. So I'm logging in as a client right here. So this is a client manager. And maybe this client manager is about to add a license and certification to an employee. So I know an employee I can use, so I'm just going to look up that employee really quickly. So we're going to use Rick Trenton. So when I get to Rick Trenton's record in his HR section, once again, I'm one of your clients. I'm a client going in here and saying, okay, I'm going to add a license certification to Rick's record. So if I come in here and add this, let's go ahead and give him, like a registered nurse license or something like that. And I'll give them a number, whatever it is, the effective date, which is kind of irrelevant for this example, and then an expiration date. Now, I'll make the expiration date within the 30 days. So, today's June 5th or 6th. So the workflow will say, oh, this is within 30 days, so it'll run right now for this. If this was 2 months from now, it would wait until a month from now. And then any comments I want, whatever it is. So once I click save, that data will propagate throughout the system. It'll take a minute or two for that to actually happen in the system, but that's what's going to go through the system itself. So going back to CRM, let's see how long that takes. Let's bring up Rick. Remember, I can use this global search, and it's going to bring up that employee record. So here's Rick Trenton's record right here. So once I bring up Rick Trenton's record in CRM, here he is, then all of his one-to-manys will be here. So usually, like I said, it takes a minute or two for the licenses and certifications to propagate through, so it might not be there just quite yet. But while we're waiting, he's got an existing one here. Remember, we can also test workflows on existing items. So if I wanted to, I could actually run the workflow against this existing one. So we can test it without actually having to create one. So while we're waiting for the other one to come through, let's run a test on this existing one. So if I click Run Workflow, it's going to say, okay, well, we have a workflow available on demand, that 30-day alert for licenses, which I set right there. So let's go ahead and run that workflow. So now that workflow is running. In the meantime, you'll see also the one I just put in is there too. So we're having two workflows run. The one I ran on demand is testing, and the one that I created out in Darwin, it's already out there, that workflow is running too. Remember, I can always just choose the record and actually see it actually running. So when I go in here, this is that registered nurse license I added for Rick out in DNet. The client did that. If I go to my background processes right here, we can see there's a 30-day alert workflow. It succeeded. This is the instance of it running, and here's the actual record it created, the actual email it created. So the email is out there, and I can see the email in CRM. It'll always be tracked in CRM, so I'll be able to see that. So here's the email that was sent. And if I go to my Outlook right now, we should see that. There's the one that was the test one. And then there's the license expiration date one that we just did. Notification is set for expiration, Rick Trenton, etc. So now every time somebody adds a license in Darwin, or a client or employee adds a license in Darwinet or during onboarding any of these processes. When we hit 30 days out before that license is supposed to expire, we'll get an email alert. Now later on, as we do the more advanced workflows, we can set conditionals where only certain clients, certain types of licenses, even employees with certain departments, things like that. We can set all those different types of conditions where we can be much more granular than just a broad strokes. Every license gets a 30-day alert. Anyways, that time, really the key thing is to remember how to do that process timeout that I showed you in the middle of the video. That can be used for anything. We focused on training or licenses here. It can be trainings, it can be reviews, PTO requests, things like all those different types of things that have date-driven items in them. So anyways, thank you again, and there'll be more workflows coming.